John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised. Government shuts down, Trump's first year in office, pot makes you paranoid, and more false alarms. That's what's headed for you in this hour of the John Lebang Show. Welcome, Earthlings, greetings, and salutations. I'm your host, John Lebang. Thank you for joining me. Before we get into those subjects that I spoke about in the intro, let's get into our weekly 3-question quiz. The winner of the weekly 3-question quiz will win a free download of the Dark Cloud's new song, MFP. Now, to answer these questions, you got to go to the website. That's www.jlebang.com. Click on Win a Prize, and then go there and answer the questions. Pretty simple. Our first question is, what is the United States government? Is it A, Donald Trump, B, Congress, the Supreme Court, the presidency, and the agencies they control, or C, the Constitution? In our second question, during the campaign, what did candidate Donald Trump accuse China of being? Is it A, technology giants, B, sponsors of terrorism, or C, currency manipulators? And in our final question, what was the first state to criminalize marijuana? Is it A, California, B, New York, or C, Texas? Feel free to go to our website, that's www.jlebang.com, and answer those questions. Third person to get those questions correct will win a free download from the band The Dark Clouds. Now let's get into the government shutdown, if you will. That is the big topic that is being bantied about on all the mainstream news. The government is shutting down. The government's shutting down. But the government is not shutting down, or at least not shutting down in its entirety. First off, we got to get something straight. People believe that it's the politicians and the directors and the people who work inside the halls of government that are part of the government. They are the government. But that is not accurate. What is the government is a big question. But the answer is so simple, most people miss it. They think Donald Trump or Congress or the Supreme Court, all that is part of the government. But it is not the government. The government of the United States, ladies and gentlemen, is the Constitution. And if you don't know what's in that Constitution, then you don't actually know what the government is. And you probably don't know what all your rights are and what the rights of the government are and what the rights of the states are. Now, because of that fact, people are assuming that the government is shutting down when it is not shutting down. The only way to shut down the government is to tear up the United States Constitution. What we have here is that the people who run the government and the budget that is supposed to dictate the spending of the government has run out. One, because they can't ever, not like they used to anymore, but they have fallen so short of making budgets that last an entire year. We always have these continuing resolutions This is not how the government is supposed to function, ladies and gentlemen. The Constitution wasn't set up so that politicians can overspend to the point where they run out of money, according to the news agencies and everybody who thinks they're the government is shutting down. But why does that matter, ladies and gentlemen? Why does the government, according to the people who think they are the government and the news agencies who project the people who are in government as government, what does that matter to any of us? Well, I did a little poll on this, and most people, about 67%, who voted in the poll, said they don't care that the government shuts down because it does not affect their life. If the government is so entrenched in your life that a shutdown of the workforce inside the government, because that's what's really being shut down. The people who work inside the halls of government aren't going to get paid, or there's no money to allocate to them, so they're going to be furloughed. Those people are the ones it's affecting. And because there's a great deal of us who are not dependent on the government system, it doesn't bother them that the government shut down. And who cares if the government shut down? To a lot of them. But the ones that are closely tied into the government, they're dependent on the government. And see, because I know a lot of these people who voted on the banger poll there, I know their situations in their life. And I could tell it was clear as day. These people that were dependent on finances or some kind of government help along the way, or some kind of government, they were connected to the government through what kind of business they owned. Those were the people that were concerned about the government shutting down, because they are dependent on the government. They rely on the government to either live or have a business or whatnot. So there's a clear divide in the country on who thinks it's a big deal that the government agencies are not going to be functioning at full capacity. People might be furloughed. There might not be money flowing through the government for however long of a time. They shut it down on a Friday night so we can get through the weekend. It ain't going to change much. But the situation is, people are worried that the government shutting down is going to affect their lives. And the only thing it really affects are the people who do business directly with the government and the people who work for the government. The people who receive benefits, from everywhere I can tell, all the reading I've done, it's not going to affect you. You're still going to get your check in the mail. Whether you deserve it or not, you're still going to get your check in the mail. You're still going to get your bridge card loaded. You're going to still have your HUD house payment paid. So if that's what is concerning you about the government shutting down, and I use that loosely because, as I stated earlier, the government is the Constitution, not these people. But because the vast majority of the population of the United States considers the people in government and the entities that they represent the government, I'm speaking to you in those terms. But it doesn't bother me one bit, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm not dependent on the government. I don't have any vested interest in the United States government and the agencies that they employ, because that's really what's affected. Again, remember that. It's the agencies that they fund and they employ people at. That's really the things that are shutting down. The Constitution cannot be shut down unless we throw it out, burn it, and disregard it. Now you could state that, hey, it's already been thrown away, disregarded, and all that. And you'd have an argument for that. But when you're talking about this specific issue, that because January 19th, 2018, there wasn't enough funding for the government agencies to continue running, they just shut it down. They closed the doors. And they furloughed a bunch of people, or are going to furlough a bunch of people. Sure, it affects them. It's about time, if you ask me, that the people inside the government, inside these halls and these agencies, start feeling the pinch like the rest of us have. You know, pretty much the people that work for these agencies and these little various sub-agencies that are contracted or that are paid through by some kind of departmental employment, these people rarely feel the pinch when the economy takes a hit, when you're forced into taking health care. You know, they are immune to a lot of this. So when I sit back and I see that they're all in panic because there's not enough funding to fund all these little sub-agencies and agencies, and some secretary of some politician might be furloughed, I don't care. Why should I care? They sit up there, they make tremendous amounts of money. You don't make minimum wage working in the agencies of the government. Or at least very little make minimum wage. They get paid really well. Which is a very interesting thing on top of that. Because service to the country should be just that. I don't see why you should pay somebody to serve the country. Maybe because you can't get people to serve the country. And if you can't get people to serve the country for free, to donate their time, the government can't become so enormous and cumbersome. And here we are. We've got Paul Ryan, everybody else in the House of Representatives and the Senate debating. Excuse me. Lost my train of thought there. Getting all involved and being all worried that we're going to shut down the government, and you're going to have this side over here saying that it's this guy's fault or this party's fault, and then you have the other party blaming the other party. You're going to have the president blaming people. Everybody's going to blame everybody else. But what it really means is there's just no money there. And they want to fund a continuing resolution. I mean, that is just like these pestiferous little maggots. This is the nature of the politician. They spend. And then when they run out of money and there's no way to make up that money, they shut it down and complain about it. We can't spend anymore. We can't make more rules. There's no money to do it. I see that as a bonus. Everything the government does, everything is meddlesome, and a lot of it is impertinent, if you ask me. But we have to deal with this stuff. We have to live through and watch and examine and digest all this information. And when you get past the mainstream media propaganda and you get past the political pundits and the politicians who are on one side or the other, all it means is the government can't spend and make rules right now. It can't do a whole lot. So that's it. And people think that's a problem, when I am perfectly happy with the fact that they can't spend any more of my money right now. They can't find ways to spend any more of my money right now. They can't find ways of making a regulation or doing other things that might be intrusive in my life. So I don't see this as a problem. We've allowed the government to take things away from us, and then when they become too intrusive, when they become too meddlesome in our lives, then we complain, then we worry, then we bother about it. Well, got to take a quick time out, folks. As you hear, the music is kicking. We got a break, but more on the flip side. We're going to talk about Mr. Donald Trump and his first year on the other side of this. Stay tuned.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. The John Lebang Show is going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time.
CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services. Their billers and managers are all dedicated to working for you to increase your profits. For more information, call CRRM at 248-579-3805. CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services.
Check out the new book from Derek Shelmerdine,
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It tells the story of rock and roll from its roots right up until the mid-70s punk.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Not just the music, but also the events that shaped the music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It includes the backgrounds to recording sessions, singles, album releases, births and deaths, epic concerts, and festivals.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Shelmerdine has made a painstaking effort to document pretty much every event that would prove significant in shaping popular music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Purchase the book at www.rockandrollunraveled.com. Follow him at Twitter at R&R Unraveled, and look him up on Facebook at Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
By author Derek Shelmerdine.
Available now.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Join the radio revolution right here.
It's better than some good Thai stick, man.
Yes, I would like some too.
It's going to be a very busy first day. On day one, I'm going to begin swiftly removing criminal, illegal immigrants from this country. My first day, it gets signed, okay? My first day. Day one, we are going to announce our plans to totally renegotiate NAFTA. On trade, I am going to issue our notification of intent to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a potential disaster for our country. On day one, we will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall. On my first day, we're going to immediately terminate every single unconstitutional executive order signed by President Obama.
And so we've lived through the first year of President Trump. Some people are happy with this first year. Other people are not so happy. There's a lot of people that are outright enraged over the first year of Donald Trump. But how did it really turn out? We all have our opinions on how the first year turned out, but are we basing these things on fact, or are we basing these things on his promises versus what has happened? So I wanted to go through a few of these things and give you an overall look of what he promised and what has happened, and see if you feel the same way as a lot of other people on Mr. Trump's first year. Now let's start with the taxes, okay? So Trump and the congressional Republicans delivered an overhaul that substantially lowered corporate taxes and cut personal income taxes. Barely cut personal income taxes, ladies and gentlemen. Corporate entities got about 14%. You or I got, well, I don't know, 1 or 2%. So we kind of know where Mr. Trump allegiances lie, at least a little more in. He promised 3 tax brackets, but there are still 7 of them. He did not eliminate the estate tax or the alternative minimum tax as he said he would. Fewer people will be subject to those taxes, but he still didn't eliminate them. Now on trade, a good portion of his promise during the campaign was to withdraw the U.S. from the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement and to reopen the NAFTA trade talks and to get things rolling there. Well, he's done okay there. Not much to complain about because they have done pretty much what they, or at least they're moving in that direction as far as these trade deals are concerned. He does let China off the hook because he did repeat that they were a real threat to the U.S. economy because of their currency manipulation. But he hasn't done a whole lot on that front at all. Trump also promised to impose a 35% tariff on goods from U.S. companies that ship product abroad, but he still hasn't delivered on that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, on immigration, candidate Trump rocked the political landscape when he proposed a temporary ban on all non-U.S. Muslims entering the country. Now, he hasn't completely succeeded there, but he has succeeded in banning an entry from citizens from several Muslim majority countries. Now, he's tried to deny certain federal money to cities that refuse to cooperate with federal immigration laws. There's California cities, there's cities all over the place. And they're breaking federal law, so he's trying to hold back their money. They're suing him for it. I think he's done okay on the immigration, especially since he's had so much opposition. And I'm speaking because there's going to be a lot of people who are against his ideas for immigration and against any of these ideas. But I'm speaking purely on his campaign promises, what he promised would happen, and what has actually transpired. Trump is in deep negotiations over immigrations as we speak. We're talking DACA and whole other things. We don't know how that's going to turn out yet, but that's in year 2. So in year 1, he didn't get that done. And of course, Mexico has not put up the money for the wall as promised by the Trumpster. Now, on energy and the environment, Trump promised aggressive action on the energy front, and he has really pursued that. He announced his intentions to take the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Change Accord, although they haven't done that yet. He did give swift approval to the Keystone XL and Dakota Access pipelines. Those are cranking out. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're for or against those, this is not where we're going with this. We're talking about what his promises were versus what has happened. Now, a new provision in the new tax law, which, again, they're squeezing things in a tax law that shouldn't be there, because that's how politicians work. They make deals. They can't do a separate, hey, I'll vote yes for you on a separate bill that has nothing to do with the tax policy if you vote for me here. I mean, they make deals like that, but they put it all in one bill versus splitting that all up. It's easier to vote on, that gives them less work to do, But this provision allows drilling in the National Wildlife Refuge in the Arctic. Some people are against that. Some people are for that. But he is following through on his promises. Now we come up to healthcare. Probably nothing exemplifies more frustration in myself and a lot of other people that his promise of getting rid of Obamacare hasn't happened and is unlikely to happen. Now, a lot of that has to do with the Republicans who just can't get on board. Those guys like John McCain. Even though the Republicans have been trying to dismantle this law ever since 2010, and they passed and sent up to the president, mind you, that was Obama at the time, a repeal bill, he, of course, vetoed it. But instead of the Republicans going, okay, we'll just send the same one back up to Trump. It passed. It passed nicely. It was a nice packaged bill that had all kinds of compromises in it. But it was going to get rid of Obamacare. And instead of sending that bill that already had passed back to Donald Trump to vote into law, to sign into law, they decided to come up with another package that didn't resemble the one that passed, by the way, and sent that up to Trump, or couldn't even get it sent up to Trump, could they? They couldn't even get it sent up to Trump. Tells you a lot about the Republicans and how far away they are from their supposed opposition. They're not that far, ladies and gentlemen. There's small differences in the two parties. Now, he made promises in his campaign stating this, quote, "My first day in office, I am going to ask Congress to put a bill on my desk to get rid of this disastrous law and replace it with reforms that expand choice, freedom, affordability. You're going to have such great health care at a tiny fraction of the cost. It's going to be so easy." Well, that hasn't happened, ladies and gentlemen. Well past the first 100 days. Well past the first week. Well into the first year. Nothing happened on Obamacare. We're now year 2. And we don't think anything else is going to happen. Now, they did cripple it with the tax bill by eliminating the mandate, which is great. I can't complain about that. But here we go. Again, we have a tax bill that they had to manipulate and squeeze and flip around, add things in there so they could cut off another bill because they can't handle this bill directly. So we're getting a mishmash of a tax bill, tax law in place now that has provisions in it that have nothing to do directly with taxes. I understand the mandate is a tax, but that's part of the Obamacare. So now we got Obamacare covering 2 aspects of the governmental budget. Now, Trump also came out with the proposed regulations to promote the sale of health plans across state lines. That hasn't happened because they can't do anything with Obamacare. Trump also promised he'd authorize Medicare to negotiate lower prescription prices, and it hasn't done that. Why does he have to do that anyways, is a question of mine. Why isn't it the mandate of Medicare to go out and find the cheapest prices on prescription drugs? It's ridiculous. What that is telling me is that they just go to the highest bidder. Who cares? Because they don't care. It's just government money. And that's the taxpayers' money. We take it from them anyways. We might as well spend it. Now we get into the America First situation. Well, I could say he's done a pretty good job on that. He's done really well against the Islamic State, ISIS. A lot better than BO did. And that's because BO, and I know a lot of people want to deny this fact, but if they do any research, they're going to find out that it is 100% true. Obama, the CIA, were all behind the group ISIS. Very much like the U.S. government was behind Osama bin Laden when they were fighting the Russians. And then they turned on them, just like ISIS. You get in bed with these dirty groups. You build them up. You supply them with weapons and all that. And they end up becoming an enemy. And then you have to deal with them. That's a protocol we probably should stop, in my opinion. Now, of course, Trump's also really put a lot of pressure on the countries in NATO to pay their fair share into the military budget so the U.S. can pay less and take care of less of that. And it seems to be working there. So he's done okay there. But despite railing against the Iran nuclear deal as a candidate, Trump has so far done nothing to get rid of that, to fix it. Nothing. So maybe that wasn't high on his agenda just yet. We didn't have a whole lot about North Korea in his agenda during the campaign. I mean, he brought them up, but they weren't at the top of the list. But they've seemed to become a big factor for Trump now. A lot of that has to do with North Korea themselves and them getting all uppity. We have a couple other things, infrastructure and veterans. First, infrastructure. Trump pledged $1 million Trump pledged a $1 trillion effort to rebuild the country's airports, roads, bridges, and other infrastructure. As with his tax plan, it's shaping up to be less ambitious than what he promised. For the veterans, he's done okay, but still there's a lot going down at the VA that isn't kosher. A lot of things are difficult, and since these are our veterans and it's our fault, or the people in DC's fault, for sending these people out to have them damaged as human beings. It really should be the responsibility to get these guys taken care of. The best way to fix the VA problem in the long haul is to stop the war issue. Just end it. Mind our own business, and the only time you have war is when somebody comes over here and nails you. And then you do something about it. But, that's, again, my opinion. There are more things, but that's the biggest chunk of things, ladies and gentlemen. So overall, when you look at what he promised versus what we've seen happen in the first year, I would say it's a B- grade from my standpoint. Now, am I saying that I support everything he's doing? No, I don't support Donald Trump and everything he's doing. A lot of other people would give him a D or an E, but that's because they're on the other side of the political aisle. And very few people that voted for Donald Trump, I think, are going to give him a higher grade than a B. Very few people. I do not think there's very many people out there that are going to give him A's. Maybe Wall Street, because the economy's kicking and all that. That's another thing. The economy has really jumped forward, and supposedly, I should say Wall Street, and they've said there's been a bunch of jobs created, but again, there were jobs created during Obama, and when you looked at them, they weren't full-time, great-paying jobs. They were minimum wage jobs, and when you look deep into this, they're not a whole lot of full-time manufacturing, good career-type jobs that you're going to get a pension with. That may take years to correct. But I don't know if we have years, because there are things coming down real soon that are very reminiscent of what happened during 2007 and 8. So we got to pay attention to those things. But we're up against a break, folks. We've gone a little long this segment. On the other side of this, we're going to talk some pot stuff. A big study came out. And we're going to get into some of these false alarms, like the one in Hawaii, after this. Stay tuned.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. John Lebang Show's going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time.
Fans, do you need a video for your brand new song but don't have a lot of money? Then contact John Lebang. His reasonable rates, professional look, and fast turnarounds will help get that song off the ground. Contact him at jlebang.com.
Powerful, epic music by Toot Box Roll. Life-changing lyrics come in every style, empowering humanity to finally unlock the chains of bondage. Experience the edgy side of positive music and rock your world today. From Primal to Divine, available now at sassyalternativemusic.com.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
Well, in a I told you so moment, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes I like having this I told you so moment. Other times I don't like it. I'm on the border fence. I'm just on the fence on this one because it's not good. It's not good being right about this or saying I told you so, but apparent missile attack that never took place because it never happened. And one random person, do you believe that, ladies and gentlemen? Some dummy, some moron, some ignoramus decided he was going to push the wrong button. Hey, let's see what this button does. Boop. Everybody goes in a panic. Then you kind of sweep that under the rug. But so many other things came from this. They've got to study a live exercise. That worker who sent out the false Hawaii missile alert, he's not been fired. Nope. He's been reassigned. Didn't I tell you that would happen, ladies and gentlemen? 1 week ago, I told you this would happen. They're going to try to sweep this under the rug. Oh, it was a big mistake. No big deal. And apparently, this unnamed emergency department worker will not be fired because he made an honest mistake that terrorized the whole state. But it was an honest mistake. And the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency is just going to say, hey, dude, we're just going to reassign you to an easier job. A job where you don't have to push the button. So this guy's being reassigned. He's getting, a little, don't do this again, okay? We're going to move you over here so you don't screw up. Meanwhile, he gets to keep his job. They don't tell us who this moron is, if it's anybody, and I'll get into that in a minute. But this person who they're sweeping under the rug, they're sweeping the whole incident under the rug, people were placing their children in storm drains because of this accident. He made a boo-boo. People were panicking, and if we look deep enough into it, I bet you there's going to be at least one death from an old person probably who had a heart attack, who panicked, whatever. That's speculation on my part. But here you have a person, who makes an honest mistake according to the Hawaiian Emergency Management Agency, a mistake that petrified a whole state, had people doing things. People were putting kids in the sewer. Throwing their kids in the sewer. And all this guy gets is a reassignment. Now, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I've worked in the retail world. And I sold lots and lots and lots of paint in my day. And I can tell you, if I screwed up where I sent out 100 gallons and it was the wrong color, and somebody put it on their building, I would face not a reassignment, but I would be unemployed for making such a stupid error. Even if it was an honest mistake. Listen, I didn't do it on purpose. Too bad you're an idiot. You're fired. Because that cost the company thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Now here we have a government worker being protected by a government agency. Not only is this guy not going to get fired, he's only going to get reassigned, and the untold damage that came from this. People lost money. Don't say they didn't, because people were running for their lives instead of paying their checks. Businesses probably were shut down for half an hour. You never know how long this had a lasting effect on people. People were scared. You frightened the whole state. But that's not everything that's revolved around this. See, maybe there isn't a government worker, and maybe, just maybe, it wasn't an accident. Let me give you a few other things. First, soon after the Hawaiian false alarm, Japan gave their own people the scare. NHK, Japan's public broadcaster, sent out a news alert on Tuesday, soon after the Hawaii thing, warning people to take shelter because North Korea had launched a missile. 5 minutes later, NHK issued a correction to retract the false alarm. And of course, the broadcaster didn't explain why that mistake happened. Supposed mistake. But let's go further, ladies and gentlemen. Cheyenne Harris Nuclear Power Plant sounds a false alarm. In New Hill, North Carolina, several sirens around the Harris Nuclear Power Plant malfunctions, quote unquote, malfunctioned, sending warning alerts, and people were getting texts on that. And they were panicking. That was this week, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm having some questions now, because this has happened a little too often. Is it possible that these were not false alarms? These were just not some form of incompetence or malfunction. That these are maybe hacks of some sort and they're not telling us? Somebody hacked in there into the system? That seems to make more sense. To tell me that you could set a whole state on red alert by pushing a button, oops, boop, seems very odd to me. So is it possible that these are hacks of some sort and they're not telling us? Or even worse, and this is much more nefarious, and I alluded to this last week, are these purposely being implemented to see and monitor the reaction of the populace? Or was it something even greater? Was there an attack of some sort? Because even a hack attack is an attack, but was there an attack of some sort? We're never going to know because the government likes to keep that from us. We saw in the Las Vegas shooting how the government reacts and works things, and they keep things from the public because they don't want to cause additional panic. Let me add one more thing to the mix. Apparently, we had a meteor here. I heard it. I heard that meteor. Boom! Supposedly it was a meteor. Somewhere between 3 and 6 foot, weighing thousands of pounds. I don't know how much. And it made a big noise and lit up the sky. National Weather Service, eventually they solved the mystery, tweeting the USGS confirmed meteor occurred around 8:10 p.m., causing a 2.0 magnitude earthquake in the state of Michigan. But there's evidence to the contrary that the earthquake was caused by whatever meteor that was. If that was a meteor. Because, I mean, this is where just John's mind goes sometimes. We've had a lot of supposed false alarms. In the same week, we had a meteor that looked like, I mean, from the video, and I'm no expert. I am no expert, so I'm just giving you what I've seen from all the videos. It looked like a big bright light that exploded, and I don't know how a meteorite would just explode. I understand they burn up, but to just explode and cause a sonic boom or whatever it did to give us a 2.0 earthquake. Another thought that enters my mind is maybe these false alarms aren't false alarms and something might have happened and they shot down something. And is it possible that they shot something down over the U.S.? And if the meteor was big enough, and I would assume that they can track these things entering the earth, I'm only assuming. I don't know for certain. Because I don't know how long it takes for a meteorite to come through the atmosphere and burn up in the sky and all that. I would assume that depending on the size and the trajectory and all that, it's going to be a little different. But if this would have hit the ground, it would have caused, I mean, there'd be no more Macomb County and that's, I guess, the epicenter of the meteor explosion. Is it possible that they might have shot the meteor down to make it explode? Because it looks like it explodes. It doesn't look like it burns up, and it was a boom. There was a big old boom. I was chatting with a friend, and I was like, hang on a minute. What the heck was that? I went outside. I'm looking all over. I couldn't see anything. I didn't know what was up. They're on the other side of they're 2 cities away or whatever, and they heard the same thing. So there's that. I don't know what it is. We're going to go with that it was a meteor that somehow exploded, apparently, and it was right over my state here, and I'm just glad it didn't hit the earth, because that would have caused some major damage. It was a 3 to 6 foot, 1,000-pound meteorite with full blast kinetic energy coming in from outer space. Yeah, when that impacts the ground, not only is it going to leave a massive crater, but it's probably going to cause a tremendous amount of damage. The shock wave alone probably could have took out I don't know how many, and again, we need an expert, but a shockwave of that had to be able to take out some blocks of property, so anybody in the area might have been severely hurt. I don't even know if people, are understanding that if that would have hit the ground, that would have caused some severe damage, and whoever's neighborhood that would have landed in, they probably wouldn't be here right now, and their neighbors and a few of their neighbors as well. We've got to take a quick time out, ladies and gentlemen. More on the flip side as we are winding down this hour of the John Lebang Show.
Where do you think you're going?
The John Lebang Show will be right back.
So grab a beer and a smoke and sit your butt back down. Stay right here.
If you are elderly, disabled, receiving SSI or Medicaid, and you have a medical need or require assistance with daily housework, shopping, grooming, medication, you may qualify for housekeeping at no cost. Call now. VIP Home Healthcare, 248-579-3805. VIP Home Healthcare, there when you need them. That's 248-579-3805.
If you're getting married soon and you need good entertainment, you need to contact John Lebang. He's got 30 years of experience of wedding entertainment under his belt, and there is no one better and no one cheaper. He's running a special to the end of the year, $500 for your wedding if you book now. Contact John Lebang by email at jlebang@live.com or go to his website. That's www.jlebang.com.
Pane in the Glass, commercial and residential window cleaning for a beautiful sparkling shine that's crystal clear. Call Pane in the Glass Window Cleaning. You can find them on Facebook at Pane in the Glass.
Donald Trump, he wants single-payer health care.
Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say, because a lot of times they say, no, the lower 25%, they can't afford private. But everybody's going to be taken care of much better than they're taken care of now.
He's even said he's a Democrat.
In many cases, I probably identify more as a Democrat.
So why the hell is he running as a Republican?
Makes you scratch your head.
Oh, I'm confused, man. So when both parties are on the left,
Then do the right thing.
vote for none of the above, man. Because what difference does it make anyways? We're all screwed.
I'm John Lebang, and I approve this message.
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show. Now here's John.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for sticking with us this entire hour. It was a little rough start for me. I was cranky when I started the show today. I've had a lot going on this weekend and this week, and the pressure was up, and I wasn't entirely flowing very well at the beginning of the show, and but we've worked that out. We're doing pretty fine now. So apparently, and this is just on the heels of the Jeff Sessions thing with the pot, cannabis users are more likely to feel deceived and alienated by others, a study finds. Marijuana users are significantly more likely to feel that others wish them harm. So we paid a lot of money. Again, more studies that tell us nothing we didn't know. So potheads, if they smoke a lot of pot, might possibly get a little paranoid. That is some new revelation to some scientists. Potheads know that. That doesn't mean people are wrong in their paranoia. Maybe that makes them more conscious of what's going on. They also say that cannabis increases connectivity in the brain regions associated with psychosis. Of course it does. They're all crazy. All the potheads are crazy. That's why they're all paranoid. You get it? I swear, man. It comes right in order. You get Jeff Sessions out there saying, oh, we're going to go after potheads now in all these states. Now you got the people over here going, hey, you know what? Hey, yeah. Pothead makes everybody, potheads are paranoid. Potheads are paranoid. It makes people crazy. They have psychosis. Don't smoke pot, folks. Of course, they'll give you prescription drugs that have way more side effects than marijuana, way more deadly side effects than marijuana, and they're worried about pot. They're worried about pot because, hey, pot's a bad thing. The only reason they're worried about pot, ladies and gentlemen, is because the pharmaceutical companies are worried about pot. Because if people can grow their own remedies at home, they don't need these pharmaceutical companies drugging them up with all these artificial, man-made, man-created drugs. They tell you all this stuff, safety. Have you seen the murderers out there, the people that go on these mass shootings? They're all on these psychotropic drugs and stuff. And they're worried about potheads being a little paranoid. Look out for the potheads. They're paranoid. They think everybody's after them. And am I saying go out and smoke pot? No. But you can't tell me that you're going to come out with a study right after Jeff Sessions comes out and say we're going to start going after pot people again. You can't tell me that this study doesn't come out right after it because it's all, random. It's not that way. This is just, it's just another thing. Hey, pot's bad for people, man. Starting way back in like 1912 with California. Isn't that odd? California, the first state to really go after people about marijuana. Oh, that's bad for you, right? Bad for you. Now, California pot shops all over the place. All over the place. They're making a fortune on it. So as government does. This is the rub, folks. This is why people don't get it. They don't understand what the government does. The government, California in particular, in this instance, takes away your right to smoke marijuana. In other words, says, you can't smoke pot, we're making it illegal. Something bad about it. 100 years later, they're like, you know what? We'll let you smoke pot again. But this time, we're going to tax it for it. We're going to put regulations on it. And we're going to make sure everything's kosher there. But yeah, you can go ahead and smoke pot all you want. That is government at its finest. They take something away from you. Yes, you want it back, so they go, okay, we'll give it back to you, but with stipulations. One, you have to pay us so you can smoke. We're going to call it taxes, and it's just on you buying it, okay? You buy it and you manufacture it. We just got to get a cut out of that, They're like the strong men that the mafia sends out, right? You go around and you want some protection? I know you didn't need protection, but what protection means is we don't come kick your butt. So give us some money and we won't come and harass you. That's all it is. Now we have a study saying, oh, it's bad for you. We have studies saying it's good for you. Studies that say it's bad for you. Studies that say it cures all this kind of cancer and all these other illnesses. And now we have a study that says you're psychotic. You're going to have a psychosis over it. And I hate feeling that I have to be so indifferent about all these things. I would like to go, okay, this study's good, right? But you have to discredit all the studies because there's always a study that counters another study. And so it's a zero-sum game. And since I don't like playing in zero-sum games, ladies and gentlemen, I do not like playing in those things. And because of that fact, I just disregard it. I hold contempt for it. And you hear that a lot. And some people find that off-putting that I hold contempt for this thing and that thing and the other thing. That's because it's full of crap. All these things are so full of crap. The people behind them are full of crap. And I'm sick of being dished out excrement when I have a good enough brain to be able to determine what is right, what is wrong, what I can do and what I can't do, what's good for me and what's not good for me. It's just another example of their meddlesome behavior in everybody's life. Leave the potheads alone. If you're going to pass drugs through your little government entity that's supposedly out to protect the American people from bad drugs, make sure all the drugs that come to market, the man-made ones, aren't going to be filled with side effects. Right now, you could just turn on the TV and look at, there's drug commercials all the time. And you have a 45-second list of a guy who's just reading off the words like this, of everything wrong with the drug. But it cures this one little thing, and it doesn't cure it. It just hides the symptoms. Anyways, folks, we're right up against the end here, so I thank you for joining me this hour. Don't forget to go to my website. That's www.jlebang.com. I'd like to thank all my affiliate stations for allowing the John Lebang Show to be on their wonderful networks. And, of course, I want to thank you, the listener, for giving me an hour of your time. Tune into the second hour, which is the variety hour. That's coming up on, well, you'll have to check your local listings because it depends on which station that the John Lebang Show is played on. And until the John Lebang Show returns and my voice resonates through your speakers, this is John Lebang signing off from the Banger Studios.
Hey, man, the views of the John Lebang Show, man, are not necessarily the views of this station
or their sponsors.
So stop your complaining.
You have been warned.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Tune in again next week. Same time, same space.